Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Vishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satiguru Pranatosh Maham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Welcome again. Last week. Do we have any questions, Claudio? No? Lynn, Mark? We are now going to talk about the ashtray today, not to get me in trouble about the snake ashtray. So if this principle applies to space, so what we were doing, so Shankaracharya, in truth, I mean, it is based on Shankaracharya teachings, but it is Vidyaranya who was presenting with space and explained the power of Maya to reverse the substance, with the property. So we know that space is a property of a certain substance. The substance is the self, or better said, Maya. So, and then it appears that existence, which is the substance, is coming out of Maya's property, such as space. So space is a property, a product, a byproduct of Maya. But space does not exist by its own. It exists because it's funny to use this word. I don't really like very much. It borrows, It somehow exists by the grace of existence itself. So there is only one non-dual existence, and existence is not a property of space, but space is a property of existence / Maya. So that's the bottom line. Thanks to Maya, and then the point here is, Vidyarani is saying, if this principle applies to space, meaning to say Maya has reversed the relationship between the property and the substance, if this principle applies to space, it applies to everything else, since space is the origin of all other elements. So we have space, out of space unfolds air, and so on and so forth, and everything, and then we have the entire world, the cosmos, the universe, all comes out of space. So we were trying to determine that space does not have existence of itself, of its own, Space is a property of existence itself. So if space is existence, although it appears that it has an existence of its own, as if existence it is something that it's a byproduct of space itself, the same confusion, the same reversal, the same confusion applies to everything, including the entire universe. So we have the universe, and it's the same principle. The universe appears to have an existence of its own, but no, the universe exists within existence itself. Existence is not a product, a property, or part of any object. It is an independent principle, which is free and extends itself infinitely and it does not depend on the universe for its own existence. So it's free and independent from this superimposition called the universe, the world. So everything is like that. This reversal affects everything. Thanks to Maya, when we hear, this is a good example. Thanks to Maya, when you hear the word table, we immediately think that the table is a solid object, isn't it? We hear the word table. Immediately, we believe that the table is a solid object like this one. But it is not. What is a table? Claudio? A table
is existence that, or you say in English?
It's tabling.
Not the table.
Tabling.
It's tabling, yeah.
No, it's existence tabling. But in this context here, when we hear the word table, we think that the table is a solid object. But the table, when we hear table, we need to reverse the reversal and understand that the table is just a superimposition. It's just a name and a form. Table is a name given to a certain shape. Namarupa. So name and form superimpose on the real solid, tangible substance called wood. Yeah? And we have a wooden table. When we hear table, we think that it is solid, but it's not. The wood is indeed solid. Yeah? But the table is just an effect, is a product, furthermore, is a name and a form. It's an effect of wood brought about by the action of a carpenter. Vedanta says that the whole creation, likewise, is a product, is created by the Maya carpenter, okay? Is a career or property. It's not the substance itself, okay? It's just a name and a form. It's a name called the cosmos or the universe, in which there is infinite configurations, parts, okay, small parts, name and forms. So the wood is solid, but the table is purely a product or an effect of wood brought about by the action of a carpenter. Vedanta says that the entire creation is a career, product, or property. It's not a substance, okay? The substance, the existence, the isness of everything that exists in the object, in the universe, okay, in the world, the substance, the isness of the world, the isness of every part of the world is existence itself. It's Satchit, existence, consciousness of the nature of limitlessness. The real substance is Satchitananda, but then it appears as objects, appears as the world, appears as the table, and so on. This fact is difficult to understand because we believe that something substantial should be tangible. We have a hard time to see the true nature, the true, what is the real substance? What is the essence of this? We always, visualize somehow that it has to be something, tangible enough so that we can capture it with the five senses. But it's not the case. The essence, the substance, usually it's something very, very, very subtle, and we can go tracing it back and going for subtler and subtler and subtler cause of the byproducts or the properties that are developed, by this lineage of something that appears, but upon investigation, we see, the classic, one of the classic analogies or examples. So we see a shirt, and then we say, what is this? It's a shirt. And then we say, no. If we really examine the shirt, I say that this is cotton. Yeah? And then somebody comes and say, no, it's not really cotton, because if I further examine it, I see that this is just cotton trades. There is no cotton. Cotton is a superimposition of cotton trades. Yeah? And that way we can go back, looking to its more substantial nature, substantial essence. And the farther we go looking for the essence of things, more we go towards what? We go back towards space. Huh? We go to space, because space is the first magic created by Maya. So Maya produces space, and then everything gradually unfolds. But intangible existence is the substance. Intangible, invisible, the most subtle is the real substance. Isn't it amazing? Huh? The reality can be so invisible, so subtle. And all forms in creation are insubstantial. So all forms, again, are just names and forms. Name, colors, and forms that we attribute properties to it. Yeah? We say, no, there is some purpose, this name and form, so those are the properties, we can use it for this and that. But the substance of all configuration of Maya goes back to space, and then from space we trace back space, and then we are back to existence itself, because as we have established at the beginning of this discussion, existence is not a product of space. So when we go to space and then we say, okay, so what is the bottom line here? What is the dead end here? So we came to space. Yeah? And then space is the ultimate reality, because it's there, it exists. And that's where things become very, very subtle, because we need to transcend space and say, so space does not have an existence of its own. The real nature of space is conscious existence. And then, of course, we lose most everyone when we come to that final conclusion. Intangible existence is the substance, and all the forms in the creation are insubstantial. Maya is very trick. It makes us think that what we experience is real, but we only experience the properties of objects, which actually belong to the sense organs, and never to a real object. It's amazing, huh? So Lynn is enjoying herself. She understands very clearly what Vidyarani is saying here. Maya is very, very tricky. It's the greatest, trickiest. It makes us believe that what we experience is real, but we only experience properties of the object. We believe that we experience the object, but actually we experience the properties of the object. Who experienced the object? The mind experienced the object. But if we take our sense organs, our perception through the five senses, we are going to collect what? The properties of the objects. And the properties of the objects belongs to the sense organs, because the same object can be perceived differently from different sense organs. Different creatures can perceive reality differently. So where does this reality, these exact properties of the objects are sitting? Are they sitting the object on the instrument of perception? Huh? Very amazing inquiries. Huh? Mind is very tricky. It makes us think that we experience what we experience is real, but we only experience the properties of the objects, and then the mind is going to integrate these perceptions, which are properties, color, smell, and everything, all these different sense and type, and then it's going to integrate, and then it's going to say, okay, it is a wooden table. But these properties, in fact, they belong to the sense organs themselves, never to the real object. Shall we go a little bit deeper into this? Claudio? We don't want to go there.
Yeah, a little bit if we want, because I have an idea about that, but it's good maybe to a little bit go further on this, because
No, you have to help us. Just get us started.
Because you see the property, you mean by seeing the property of the objects, you mean the senses, essentially are the senses, the colors, the characteristics, the
So the basic properties comes from the basic five elements. Yeah. Okay, the properties of smell and hearing and touch and colors and so on.
Because I read something about what Ramji also in his book says, no, to the direct path. I don't remember that he suggests to read. I read a little bit about this Greg something. I don't remember. Yeah. I don't know if.
Yeah.
I read something about this. It clarified me a lot about this. And yeah, he says, I think that you see essentially only your senses, no? You don't have other things, essentially. Yeah. This is what he means. You don't see the objects. For example, yeah. I see this bottle, but where is the bottle? No, you see a form. This is one property. Then I see a color here, and then I see different things, but I never see, where is the bottle? I can ask. This is what he means, right?
The bottle is experienced by the mind, because the mind is what is going to make sense of all these sense perception. So it's like in that book, there is an example. I sit on the chair. So am I sitting in the chair itself? You know, what I'm experiencing, I'm sitting in a chair now, I'm experiencing, you know, a sensation with my arm, a sensation with my butt, you know, and so on. So you can see that you are having a sensory experience, you understand? And this belongs to what? To the properties of the object. But the properties of the objects, they don't mean anything to us unless the mind integrates it and says, I got it. It is a chair. I got it. It is a bottle. Yeah? So you hear, you see, you touch, you smell, you taste, and then you say, no, it's a water bottle. Yeah? So we have then this, the question there is like, we don't really experience sensorially, I don't know if you can say sensorially, we cannot really experience things, you know, as we believe we experience things without the mind, which is going to integrate and say, no, this is it and this is that, okay? Otherwise, we are just capturing the properties of every object. But the point here, it says that the objects, the properties of objects, like a table is just wood, but it's depending on the shape, and the shape I can touch, I can see if I have eyes, you know, and they say, no, I come to the conclusion that this wood is better represented as a table. So now the mind made sense of a wooden piece and convert that to be a table. But here Vidyarani is saying that furthermore, the the properties that we use to somehow define something as a table, the properties, okay, they don't belong even to the wood. It does not belong to the physical object. It belongs to the sense. Okay, so now we have to go back and remember how this world comes and unfolds in the universe. You know, we have this cycle between the objects as they come in formation and the instruments to perceive the objects, because the universe comes so that it is experienced and known. So now, does the properties, they do belong to the object, or do they belong to the sense organs? That is the very philosophical question, you understand?
Yeah.
Very philosophical. So, because we know that the elements, they develop, and as they come into play, and then the 5 sense organs develop so that they can capture those 5 properties of each one of those primary elements. So now, what came first? The egg or the chicken? You understand? So what came first? The 5 instruments or the 5 organs of perception? Okay? So the fact is that we cannot say that it belongs only to the sense organs or only to the objects. But when we say that it belongs to the sense organs, because the sense organs are backed up by the mind, and the mind is backed up by consciousness. Understand? And everything, since everything comes from consciousness, we could say that the objects are coming from consciousness. But the fact, to me, my take is that it's just like the seed and the tree, the chicken and the egg. We have the elements and the 5 elements, the 5 sense organs, and then we have the creation being complete. We have the creation, the creator, and the agent, which is the experiencer of the creation. Anything from you guys there?
I was reading some verses by Swami Paramarthananda on this in his Panchadasi. And there's one, I don't know, can I read something from it?
Please.
He says, you should have a vision in which the whole world appears as changing nama rupa. It should be reduced to non-substantial, fragile, constantly, fluidly, kaleidoscopically changing nama rupa alone. And there is only one substance that is called Brahman or Atma, which you can call it Chit or Sat. Maya produced Brahma in my head, and therefore the reversal has to take place within me and in my intellect. No regular
Maya, can you repeat? Maya produced?
Yeah, Maya produced Brahma.
Brahma.
Not Brahma, but Brahma.
Brahma, God.
In my head. Therefore, the reversal has to take place within me, in my intellect. No regular, oops, I lost it. Pramana, Pratyaksha, Anumana can do it. And then he says, so the only way is the Shastra, so get at it. It's a really beautiful, I thought, on this verse.
Yeah.
That you really have to just have that vision of the world in your awareness all the time.
Yeah. So I would appreciate if you can send this by you take a picture with your cell phone and send it to me by WhatsApp, please.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Very beautiful. Yeah.
There, I got it back up. This reversal is in the form of rectification. In the form of rectification is caused by this re-reversal.
Re-reversal.
re-reversal
Yeah,
in the form of rectification
yeah.
is caused by Shruti Pramana. If you are interested in this reversal, take to the study of the Upanishads.
Yeah. If you are interested in the reversal or the reversal of the
The
reversal,
re-reversal.
the reversal.
So if this floats your boat, you know.
Yeah. Nice, beautiful.
I was wondering, Arlindo, if the properties actually belong to the mind rather than the senses, because the mind, under different conditions, can see the properties differently.
Good point.
Do you know what I mean? Or my mind can see, my senses will see them perhaps the same as yours, but my mind will interpret them differently. So does it actually belong to the senses, or does it actually belong to the mind?
Yeah, it's a play between the mind, because the mind is often referred as the sixth sense. Okay, it's the integrator of the five sense, yeah, which is a higher sense organ. Yeah, sometimes it's presented that way. So they play together. Yeah. So our sense may be in good shape, but the mind may be a little bit Rajasic, over Rajasic and or over Tamasic. And then it's going to spoil the good work presented by the five sense, for example, you know. So the point is, but the sense itself, they are there unless they are damaged. They are there, our ability to hear, to taste, to smell, to see, and so on, and to touch. So they are there. So the point is, the property of the object belongs to the object or the sense, you know. So and again, you know, it's my take. It belongs to both, you know, because the world, the five elements with its five properties, it comes so that it comes together with the five senses, the five organs, which allows the jiva to experience it. Yeah. So we have to have our sense organs, our sense instruments in good shape, and then we have to have a good mind to integrate it properly. And then we have to, furthermore, we have to get into Vedanta to understand that ultimately, so every object which appears as a set of properties is just insubstantial. It's a name and a form, and which appears to have its own properties, but the properties comes between the play of the sense organs and the configuration of the five elements itself. Everything is very tricky, and this is part of Maya's power to reverse this this relationship. So the next verse, it's common knowledge that correct understanding born of a legitimate means of knowledge makes things appear as they are, and that a projection causes them to appear to be different from what they are. Now, the teaching on space is unfold. It's a common knowledge that correct understanding, that's okay. So we know from the standpoint of our human experience, a correct understanding born of a legitimate means of knowledge makes things appear as they are. They are faithful to what they are. And we know also that projections cause them many times to appear to be different from what they really are. So we know that our minds sometimes they superimpose things, even if we have a good means of knowledge like Vedanta, many times we misunderstand and we project our own notions or biases or whatever. So if we have too much projection operating, and then things are going to be appear different. And the classic example is that I have a good sense organs, and I have, and those are pramanas, those are means of knowledge, the five senses. But in a moment in which my mind is a little bit rajasic, I may project the snake on the rope. So we know that the power to project operates, and we make mistakes on a daily basis, projecting things. So now the teaching on space is unfold. So the closing here is what is intriguing me when Vidyaranya closed. Now the teaching on space is unfolded. So we have a legitimate means of knowledge, and they are going to reverse things so that things are going to appear for what it is. The substantial nature of things is one and only one, which is Satchit. And space does not have its own existence. Therefore, the teaching of space was unfolded by this means of knowledge called the Upanishads. That's going to correct our notion, our perception, and we are not going to project so that we're going to project existence on space, which is project Sat and Mithya, but we're going to see things for what it is, space occurring within existence. Therefore, the teaching on space is unfold. Most probably that's what he means, or what? Down here, we may have a better clue. Perception and inference will not work to reverse the reversal because they are products of Maya, right? So we are having this problem of not seeing exactly things as they are. We're seeing existence coming out of space. We see existence coming out of the other elements. We see existence coming out of the entire world. So, and we do that because we rely on perception, and perception will give us that sense. So, if we rely on perception to correct this misunderstanding, to reverse the reversal, so we will fail, because perception itself is already a byproduct of Maya. It is already Maya tricking us through its power of reversal, and it reverses things by perception itself. It produces perception, the five sense organs, and by these pramanas, we're going to see the world. We're going to see existence in the world, and we will believe that every configuration, every part of the world has its own existence. So this is all given in automatic by perception. But perception is the means, is the pramana by which Maya tricks us in the first place. There is only one effective way to reverse the reversal, which is to remove your ignorance by humbly exposing your mind to the Upanishads, like Swami Paramarthananda was beautifully describing in that paragraph that Lynn has read to us. So we need to humbly expose our mind and do some work. We need to contemplate until things become more clear, and then we can begin correcting or doing this reversal naturally, spontaneously, as we do in many other occasions, and we're going to see this in the next paragraph. If you think that the sky is blue and you are told that it is not, the only way to render its colorless is to understand why it seems to be blue. So we need to understand what was that has produced something that is not real. What is that has caused me to perceive something which is not faithful for what things really are, for what the thing really is. The only way to realize the colorless nature of sky is to understand why it seems to be blue. You have to understand the phenomenon. You have to understand what is this physical phenomenon that makes the sky. And then you say, okay, now I understood. So the Upanishad is going to help us to understand which way, Maya reverse things, and then we see duality as reality. We see existence coming out of matter and not the other way around. If we want to correct our perception, our vision, the only way is to understand how it came about. It cannot be bleached. The sky cannot be bleached so that by perception we see, no, now I did something, the sky is no longer blue. No. If you want to become limitless, knowledge is the only way, because you are limitless already, always. So what is another reverse of Maya? And Maya makes us to immediately superimpose our existence on the body, and then immediately we feel limited. And then it says, if you want to realize, if you want to become limitless, you need to submit your mind, your intellect to these teachings of the Upanishad, because this knowledge is the only way to really be limitless, because you have always been limitless. No technique will accomplish it. The self is the substance, and the world is a property of the self. So we know, this is again one of those statements. The world is a property of the self. So we know that the self is free of properties, is attributeless, okay? So it does not have any attributes, but due to the power of Maya produces the world. Now the world is a property of Maya, would be better said. If the world has the same degree of reality as the self, then all the evil of the world would contaminate the self. So the self is the essential nature, the substance of the world, is the substratum. And the world is a byproduct of the self in association, quote unquote, with Maya. If the world has the same degree as the self, then all the evil and all the good of the world would be impacting the self, because they belong to the same order. But as we know, the self is the substance, the self is the source, so the self is Satya, and then Maya produces Mitya, and then Mitya is colored by numberless properties. These properties, they can be resolved on the self as the self. All objects can be resolved on the self as the self, but not in the sense that they are as real as the self, because if they would be real as the self, and then the self would not be a partless whole anymore. And every small part, every attribute or properties that would be said to belong to the self would be affecting, including all the evil of the world and all the good of the world. But the world is like a dream. What happens to the dreamer does not affect the awaker. So what happens to the world does not affect consciousness, awareness, existence. So what happens to the dreamer, what happens to the world does not affect consciousness. Likewise, what happens to us in the dream state does not affect us in the awaking state. The world is a dream. what happens to the dreamer does not affect the waker. It's true, however, that the you think you are is part of a dream and is always contaminated. Okay, what happens to the dreamer does not affect the waker. Yeah, it's true, however, that the you believe you are is part of the dream and is always contaminated. So the you, the waker, and we are identifying with the waker, we believe that we are the visual, the awaker, in the jiva in the awakened state. So this you that you believe you are is again another dream, is another dream. However, that you think you are is part of another dream, and as part of the dream, it's always affected by everything within the dream, because we are identified with our inferior nature. We are identified as the waking dreamer and the sleeping dreamer as well. So these are two different suborders of the same order called mithya. So the you, the I, the you think you are, is again a dream, even as a waker. Therefore, you are always impacted by your experience. The experience affects the body-mind complex. The body-mind complex is always changing, interacting with the field of experience, but there is something inherent to the body-mind complex which is not contaminated by anything within experience, because experience belongs to mithya. And this you, this I that we are talking about now, belongs to satya. Satya is never contaminated, never attached, never, how do you say? I forgot that word. The only solution to suffering is to understand that you are not this you think you are. So it's very simple. We know that. We understand Vedanta is all about this. The only solution for this suffering, samsara, is to understand that we are not the person, we are not the body-mind, we are not the ego. We are limitless original consciousness. And then the suffering is going to go gradually as this knowledge is more and more clear and available to us. So the only solution is that, because the body-mind is always being contaminated by its experiences through the sense organs and the mind. The body-mind complex is all the time being affected, okay? So the dreamer does not affect the awaker. The objects in the dream is going to affect the dreamer itself. The objects in the awakened state is going to affect the awaker, because the awaker is another dreamer, okay? It's again another entity, apparent entity, in constant flux of change, because everything that it experiences belongs to the same order, okay? I and the things around me, we belong to the same suborder of reality, the Pratibhatika Satya, okay? Vyavaharika Satya, sorry. The only solution, therefore, is to claim our substantial nature, our true essence. Existence awareness is the substance of space. We have determined that already before. Existence, consciousness, Satchit, is the real substance of space. Existence awareness pervades the space, but space does not pervade existence awareness. So it is interesting, because when we look into space, we say, wow, space is the most pervasive. But here Vidyarani say that Satchit existence, consciousness, is pervading space, and it could not be otherwise. We don't see Chit, consciousness, shining as space. Otherwise, space would be conscious of us, the Jivas. But no, space is inert. It's very subtle matter, subtle energy. It pervades everything in the universe. But there is something that pervades space. Otherwise, space would not enjoy existence, because it needs such a pervading space, so the space, of course, as space, the accommodating principle. Space pervades the elements that subsequently evolve from it. Space does not pervade consciousness or existence, because space is less subtle. Space, though, pervades all the elements that evolve from itself, because the whole process of creation is from the most subtle, and then it goes gradually densifying or grossifying until it becomes the physical material world we know. Space pervades the elements that evolve from it. When, by the exercise of reason, discrimination, space is separate from consciousness, space disappears, and it's robbed of its power to accommodate objects. So when we we follow the logic as presented by the Upanishads, and we do this extremely subtle discrimination between space and existence, and we exercise the discriminating power, and then we're going to separate or discriminate space of existence, and we are no longer going to see existence coming out of space, but we're going to see existence as the substratum which pervades space. When we do that, and then what happens to space? And then space is resolved in Satchit, in consciousness. It's resolved. And as it's resolved, it is robbed of its power to accommodate objects, meaning to say it's not really what it seems to be, because fundamentally space, which is the primordial object, is nothing but a superimposition in existence consciousness itself. And then the whole shebang is at question. It's going to be investigated to see, okay, so is there really this nature of space which is accommodating of all other objects, or it's all part of the mirage? Anything more about that? So we're going to talk about the debitor. It's a concept that says that everything in the universe is in debt. And we are in debt because we borrow existence, lends conscious existence to the beings, to all sentient and insentient beings of the universe. So therefore, we own our conscious existence to conscious existence. Everybody here is in debt with Brahman. That's what it means. The apple does not fall far from the tree. If the world evolves from space, whatever applies to space applies to the world. So the same way, wherever you see an apple, you're going to find a tree, an apple tree. Wherever you find other objects in the world, you're going to find space, because it's never going to fall away from space. It's always associated with space. If the world evolves from space, whatever applies to space applies to the world, meaning to say it's the same problem. Maya is going to trick everybody. The same logic that we apply to space, it needs to be applied to all other objects, all other elements. If the world exists on its own, it would not be able, it could not be negated, let's say, because it's real. Space is real, and the world is real. The other elements are real. So, and then nothing can be negated. But who or what borrows existence? So Vidyaranya presents a question mark there. The world is a debitor. No? It borrows existence from Brahman, existence itself. No? So who or what borrows existence? Everything. The world is a debitor because it borrows existence, just as a rich man needs to borrow money. Need not borrow money. An existing thing need not borrow existence. So now I got confused here. Help me there. The world is a debitor. It's in debt. It borrows existence. Just as a rich man need not borrow money, an existing thing need not borrow existence because it has existence already. What a concept. So any object, anything, space. Now I think I know where Vidyaranya is going with it. Space, fire, space, air, fire, water, and earth, and everything that comes from these basic elements. Everything contains already existence, because existence is a substratum of every one of these elements. Okay, so everything is already soaking in existence. Existence is there, conceding existence to the elements and to all configurations that we see in the world. The world is a debitor. It borrows existence from existence, just as a rich man does not need to borrow money. An existing thing does not need to borrow existence because it has existence already. I want to see where Vidyaranya goes with this, because although it has existence, it has an existence that is dependent on Brahman. It has already an existence. Everything is there soaking in existence, but this existence that every object enjoys is not a free and independent existence, but it's depending on Brahman, depending on Sat itself. Let's see, a non-existing thing, because it has existence already. So like the rich man does not need to borrow money because he has a lot of money. So any and all objects, any existing thing, object, that does not need to borrow existence because it has existence already. So let's follow this thread. A non-existent thing cannot borrow existence. Oh, that's interesting, huh? So we have established several times that there is no such a thing as a non-existent thing. So now a non-existent thing cannot borrow existence because it does not exist. This is philosophical. So a non-existent thing cannot borrow existence because it does not exist. Therefore, only a completely unique something that is neither existent nor non-existent can borrow existence. So now Vidyaranya is presenting another concept here. He says that existence is there as the substratum of everything that appears, okay? And everything that appears exists. Therefore, it does not need to borrow existence. On the other hand, a non-existent thing cannot borrow existence because it does not exist. Therefore, only a completely unique something that is neither existent nor non-existent can borrow existence. The borrower is not the object. The borrower is Maya. How amazing, huh? So who is borrowing existence? And then passing it on to all objects which unfolds from it, which is created by it. The borrower is not the object. The borrower is Maya, which is Mithya. Maya is always in that. Vedanta is the only teaching that has Mithya. And when all things are considered, it's the only teaching, it's the only teaching of Vedanta. And when all things are considered, it is the only teaching of Vedanta. Okay, I think Vidyaranya is saying that fundamentally, Mithya is the only teaching of Vedanta. Could it be that? No? Okay. So Vedanta is all about understanding what is Mithya, which is something which is not non-existent, and it's not really existent on its own, but it is Mithya, apparently existing. So it's gonna go more and more into this concept. The self cannot create. As we know, matter cannot be created. It's it's always there. Only Maya can create. So we have two things operating in the universe. One is the self or spirit, and the other is matter. So now, how this world unfolds and modifies and evolves and changes and expands. So how the universe goes about. So what is the power that produces all of this? So it says that the self cannot create. The self is a karta. It does not do anything. And then we have to agree with the Upanishads when it says that matter cannot create. So matter cannot produce consciousness, and it cannot create the other objects, even the inert object. How can matter create matter? No, matter does not contain intelligence, reflect consciousness to create anything. Jivas cannot create, because jivas are very limited. It has some talents and some abilities to play with the elements. But who is creating here? If matter cannot create, consciousness cannot create, the jivas cannot create anything, although there are a lot of people in this modern world that we live, that they are trying to be smarter than God itself. But no, jiva cannot, the self cannot. So the only power that can really create is Maya. Only Maya can create. It's neither the self nor matter. Maya is something between matter and consciousness, the self. It's not the self. It's not the world of matter/energy. It's something in between. And it's very difficult to wrap our mind around this concept of Maya, as we know. But Maya is the one who is borrowing existence as a great illusionist, and then projecting the world on name and forms, and then make it appear as being existent by itself. If you want to remove your shirt, view it from the standpoint of its substrate, cotton. If you want to remove your body, look at it from the self's point of view. Another convincing argument to distinguish awareness, consciousness from matter is I, awareness, I am conscious, of space. Space is not conscious of me. Am I space? No, I'm consciousness. I'm the consciousness of space. It's a nice logic here. I awareness, I am consciousness. Yes, and I am conscious, and I exist. Space also exists. Space is not conscious. I know because, it's easy to understand that space is not a conscious being. It's just extremely subtle. So am I space? No, I'm not space. I am the consciousness of space. I am conscious of space. Space is a concept. It's a conceptual, intellectual object. And I know space. I understand space. I can't really perceive space in a tangible manner, but I know space as an object. Space is not aware of me. Therefore, I am the consciousness of space, because space is also made out of Sat Chit. Everything in the universe, even if it's not self-conscious, it's still, there is Chit there as well, there is consciousness. It's very fascinating, this passage, yeah? A non-existent thing cannot borrow existence because it does not exist. Therefore, only a completely unique something that's neither existent nor non-existent can borrow existence. So Vidyaranya came and turned things in a way and present to us with the fact that everything that is already soaked with existence. So what do we see? And we see, I experience the world, therefore the world is, the world exists. And then this world does not need to borrow, because this world is just a superimposition of existence itself. It's already soaked in existence, but it is a dependent existence, because the existence is not coming from space or air or the world as but the existence is an independent principle that somehow apparently borrows existence to the world. But here Vidyaranya says it does not really borrow existence to the world, because the world already exists. How we know? Because I experience it, and therefore it's soaked in existence. Although something that is soaked in something is enjoying, the soakedness of whatsoever it's soaked in, but yet it depends on this substance it is soaked. So the substratum is existence, and then everything that exists, is already, does not need to borrow existence. So who needs to borrow existence? Is the power, is Maya. Maya is the borrower, Maya is the debtor, which is Mithya. Mithya is somehow, it's borrowing existence, it is apparent reality, and it's always in depth, meaning to say it's always dependent on existence itself. And actually, it's depending on Maya, and so much so that from time to time, Maya gets tired and they say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, and then everything is going to lose its existence, because Maya is the one who borrows and then lends existence to all the other objects, as it seems here. It's always in that. Maya, Vedanta is the only teaching that has Mithya. The self cannot create, matter cannot create either, only Maya can create. If you want to remove your shirt, you have to understand the substratum, what is subtler than the shirt, and then you will understand cotton is the real thing there, and the shirt is just a name and the form. If you want to remove your body, we need to look at it from the self's point of view. And then we see the body again as a superimposition on consciousness. Another convincing argument to distinguish consciousness from matter is I, consciousness, am conscious. Space is not, am I space? No, I am the consciousness of the space. This is all so beautiful. Lynn, you read this passage on the Upanishads. When I studied the Upanishads, I have never found the transcription of the talks of Swami Paramarthananda. I had to listen. The same was Ranji. Ranji, when he compiled this book, he spent many hours listening to the same talks that I listened. Yeah. So when you said
I'll
that
send it.
You have the book, you have all the transcriptions?
In digital form.
Digital, that's
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, one book, chapter 1 through 6. Then I don't know if I have the next, but then there's another chapter 11 through, you know.
Wow, this is very precious.
I'll send it.
Yeah, please, and I will probably.
Or I'll find out the link. I'll find the link.
Send me the link,
download.
And then I will find a way to print it, to keep it in paper form as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions, anything else? Any insights? Claudio, Mark? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, my friend. Thank you a lot. Namaste. And we meet again soon. Next Thursday, it's going to be our last class on the big picture, Vedanta. And then we're going to still be there working with the words, with the, the expositions of Swami Paramarthananda, because that book that I sent to you is Swami Paramarthananda unfolding the teachings of Drisha Viveka as well. Okie dokie. Namaste again. We meet again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.